Hello everyone, and welcome to your NARSA Weekly Update for the week commencing Monday the 22nd of September 2025. It's Gary here again, and I don't mind telling you, I feel kind of weird. I feel a wee, I feel a wee bit funny this week because we had a new sensation this past weekend there with Rangers getting a victory against a domestic team, and that felt kind of weird. And what felt even more weird about it was we absolutely 100% deserved it, and we played well. I'll talk about that a wee bit more in the games sequence, or the game segment, I should say. But you know what? It actually, genuinely, like I say it somewhat joking, but it did feel a wee bit strange because during the game, there wasn't a lot of real positivity or chatter or anything. Obviously, we had a situation where there was protests both outside and inside the stadium, and Russell Martin had actually confirmed that the protest outside the stadium, which I'm assuming was intended to be so in terms of disruption because he was doing the team talk in the dressing room, and then whatever. I actually didn't see anything in terms of what happened outside, other than just the crowds there. But I don't actually know what happened. I seen the stuff inside the stadium, and it's one of those weird days. A smaller crowd, a wee bit more than I actually thought was going to be there. But as I told you last week, here in Calgary, we decided not to have the game. We were doing a poll this time last week when I was recording, and we had 3 people say they were going to come down. It just wasn't enough to justify, going down and opening up and getting things organised there. That's the first time we've done that. That's maybe not been like weather related or something. It's the first time truly 100% because of the team that we've done that in the almost 21 years I've been here. It's 21 years I've been here next month. And that tells you something just about where we're at in terms of that. It actually worked out quite well for me because I had a football game. I'm injured right now, but I had a football game for the team that I play on, and I wanted to go and just support the team and do the game sheet stuff and all that sort of thing with the ref. And then I got a chance to watch my beloved team, Rangers, play at the same time as watching my other team play. And you know what? I was expecting the quality between both not to be too dissimilar, but as it turns out, Rangers did turn it on and actually played well, and I think I mentioned last week here that we did have a good second half, certainly up to the second goal that we lost, which should never have been a penalty in the Hearts game. And afterwards, I wasn't very generous with my praise, let's just say that. And I had said, half of a game, or half of a game almost, probably a bit more than half of a half, but doesn't make a season, but you need to start somewhere, don't you? And I think, when we get to looking at that, seeing the obvious refereeing mistakes that were admitted after the fact, why they never went to VAR for the Shanklin handball and chalked that one off, I'll never know. And that could have been season defining. It could have been career defining for the manager. But it was kind of weird during the game, because there's still some of the chatter about some of our defending and the way that things are going and such. But it was just like a funny, weird level, I guess is probably the best way to say it. When you're kind of like, they want to complain, but they're actually seeing something that looks kind of relatively positive here. How do we actually react? And we forget pretty quickly as football fans. We forget about the good times. We forget about some of the bad times as well. So it was one of these, you never know. A good half against Hearts, a good 90 or so against Hibs. We'll see what happens as things come up. Here's a wee tidbit for you. A good pal of mine is, don't even ask me why, but he does a cycle bike trip every year. So this year he went to Manitoba, to Winnipeg in Manitoba, which is kind of like almost like in the middle of the country, I think. Forgive me if that's not right in terms of geography. And he was cycling from Winnipeg over to Regina in Saskatoon, which is coming further west. And I don't know how many kilometres it is. It's like a bazillion kilometres. And then he messaged me yesterday afternoon and he says, I've stopped at a place to grab a bite to eat. And Rangers, everyone here, all my Canadian pals here call it the Rangers. And he says, and the Rangers game is on the TV and they're beating the Hibs, whoever they are, 1-0 right now. Is this live? So I got back to him and said, that's not live. It's actually from yesterday. but keep watching because it gets a wee bit better. Then he says, oh, it's actually 2-0. And he was in the Highway 1 Roadhouse Bar and Grill in Saskatchewan. And I said, was there anyone else there? Like, was there Rangers fans there? Like, what? They're just so random. And it just shows you how global we truly are. He says, I was the only guest in there. There was no one watching the game particularly or anything like that. So random, but brilliant to hear and brilliant to see. And it's great to spread the word, especially when there's something good going on there. So if anybody here is listening and you know this Roadhouse Bar and Grill in Saskatchewan, please get in touch with me and let me know where the Rangers connection comes from, because we don't have any NARSA clubs in Saskatchewan, and it would be just interesting to see who's there who thought that would be a good thing to pop on, because that game was not on any terrestrial channels or anything like that. Well, I guess with being premium sports, they maybe picked it up on some other feed. I'm not 100% sure, but interesting that over 24 hours later they'd be showing it in Saskatchewan. And lots of people probably listening to this have never even heard of Saskatchewan. It's a province next to Alberta, where I live as well. All right, on to the game segment for this week. And for this week, obviously, it was our 2-0 home win against Hibs in the quarter-final of the League Cup, or whatever it's called these days. And the goals came from, it kind of had to be, didn't it? The first goal came from Nico Raskin, and then it was great to see Majowski get the second. They're two rapid goals, actually, just before half time, and overall much better. I was kind of keeping half of an eye on most of the first half. I watched most of it back yesterday just to make sure that I kind of captured the actual feel of the game, and as I say, just weirdly better than anything we've seen outside of one or two of the European performances thus far under Russell Martin's reign, and it was kind of strange to see the team playing well. And it's just odd, isn't it? I mean, usually when the manager is under so much pressure and under fire so much, the players, whether they intentionally do it or not, some of them do and some of them don't, I suspect, they typically, the performance dips. So the manager just can't do right for doing wrong. And they're in a situation where it just kind of peters away, doesn't it? But this one was the opposite. They got a bit of grief for doing the hike and the cold plunge in Loch Lomond at the beginning of last week. And Martin was obviously getting a whole bunch of hassle. We didn't realise that Martin was actually sick and got sick during the Hearts game last week, and then was in bed for most of the week too. Then he obviously had some challenges with one of his kids. I think it was his daughter was in hospital and things like that as well. But there just seemed to be some sort of tension released. Now, the only thing I can think about, well, there's two things. One is what I hope it was, and the second one maybe not so much. The first one is, the actual coaching is working, and the fact that they had a full week together and they get a chance to look at more video and really analyse what they're doing and really truly understand what their role in the team is, because they seem to just play with real relaxedness, real kind of chilled out. This is what we do all the time, and you're like, man, oh man, can you look in the mirror and see who you have been, see what the team have been thus far this season domestically, for sure, because it's been night and day. And Russell Martin did say this. He says there's going to be a dip, there's going to be some challenges, there's going to be some hassles, and then it will click, and then they'll understand, and then they'll get it right, and then we'll move forward. Maybe that's actually what's going to happen. Of course, it's just one game or maybe 1.5 games, like I said, but you need to start somewhere. And I think where we've started is obviously too late for every single Rangers fan across the world. But maybe you just never know. The second thing that I hope it wasn't was a reduced capacity at Ibrox, or a reduced crowd number, I should say, at Ibrox. I would hate to think that when it's full again, which it will be a lot busier, I would imagine, on Thursday, and maybe not full against Genk, that maybe there's some sort of intimidation factor there. Maybe there was just a wee bit of the shackles that were taken off with the crowd not being quite so big, or the crowd concentrating on something else. I don't think so. I hope not. I guess we'll find out as the games progress here. But yeah, it was good. Back to the game. We did get some good fortune when their goal was chalked off for the handball and on Martin Boyle, and it was a great run, great finish by him, I have to say. I thought almost Super Jack Butland had made the save, but it just couldn't quite keep it out there. But here's the kicker. That was a fraction of the handball that Lawrence Shankland had last week, and it never even went to VAR. And this one, it goes to VAR. And by the way, it's kind of difficult to see. For me, it was anyway. But it's ruled off. You can actually tell when you get to the player reaction. And Boyle didn't really complain that much about it, so he must have known that that's what was happening. But here's the kicker: if it hadn't been highlighted and the apology hadn't been made so late in the week, there, who knows whether that would have even gone to VAR? I'm not 100% sure in terms of the Hearts decision I'm talking about specifically. But it was great. So we got that wee bit of good fortune, because that would have made things very, very difficult for us. But overall, I mean, it wasn't perfect. Of course, it wasn't perfect in terms of the performance, but much, much, much better. And I watched the highlights again just last night, and it showed how well we played. Created a lot of chances. The 2 goals were great goals. A goal from a set piece, and with the returning Raskin, for him to score that, he's scored a few goals like that, by almost identical like that. Brilliant ball from Tav, and then Raskin just gets right in. It goes right through the goalie. I would be a wee bit disappointed if it was Jack Butland, but it's so fast that the goalie's reacted almost after it's past him, quite honestly. And then Raskin, of course, gets a kind of assist or a half assist on the second one with the ball into Moore, who then has a shot or a cross. It kind of felt like a shot that gets to put into Majowski's path, and then he puts it in. So great to see him got off the mark as well. When new strikers come in, we haven't created a lot of chances for him at all. Could have scored a couple, could have scored a hat-trick actually on Saturday, the way that he played and the chances that he had. We could have scored another couple of goals as a team. Gassama hit the bar in the second half. Chermiti had a brilliant run and shot, very well saved at the end. Actually, I think just before that, Antman had one of these mazy runs where it looked like he took it past each of the Hibs players about 4 times each and ran in and just put it past the post. And the goalie was not getting that if it was inside the post. So it could have been like a 3 or 4-0, 4 or 5-0 even maybe. And the key for me was, it was interesting. I think, who was it? It was on Co-Coms and RTV. I think it was Maurice Ross. In fact, it was Maurice Ross. And he had said, or maybe Tom Miller had said, I can't remember, but it'll be interesting to see if Russell Martin gives the fans an opportunity to thank Raskin, by substituting him towards the end of the game. And I guess the answer would be, it depends how the game is going. But towards the end of the game, 88, 89 minutes, he then substitutes him. And I thought, good for you for doing that. You didn't have to do that. And he got a great reception. He got an opportunity to thank the fans. I wasn't 100% sure what was going to happen with the two of them when it got to that point. Like, who knows? It doesn't seem like they are going to be best friends, but the two of them have figured out each other's roles and whatever it was that happened, and they're doing their best to try and say, right, our work is our work, our relationship is our relationship, keeping them a wee bit separate. But they had a very nice embrace, and fair play to both of them for doing that. That takes a wee bit of maturity, and who knows? As I say, whatever went on. But if we get a Nico Raskin like that, if we get a team that's coached like that for the remainder of the season, then we might be on to something here. Who knows? And it's one of these things. I think overall, it's just great to feel probably relief. I think it is at the end of the game to say, right, that's actually what we're expecting from this Rangers team, notwithstanding coaching or promises of high press football and high energy and all that sort of thing that Martin's been saying that I talked about last week. But just that opportunity to say it was relatively comfortable. The Hibs had some chances as well. Don't get me wrong, they created some chances and they've got a lot of pace in their team, especially up front. But we should be beating Hibs at Ibrox, simple as that. And we did, and it was kind of drama free, wasn't it? So we'll take that. And the relief was great. The fans were great and supportive of the team. Obviously disrupted the game a wee bit in the first half there, where all the ball was getting thrown on and such. There's only so many things fans can do, and one of the major things that they did do was not show up, and that will hopefully have been noted by Chairman Andrew Kavanagh, who had flown in for the game specifically. So in terms of positives, we're in the semi-final. As you know now, it's the semi-final against that mob from the East End on November the 1st or 2nd. And, I think it's something to look forward to. Who knows? It's, what's that, 5 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now almost? And probably 5 weeks this weekend. And who knows where both of the teams are going to be at that particular point. And, the old adage of it's a semi-final, it's an all-firm game, you never know what's going to happen and such like that. But you never know. We keep doing what we're doing, and we might end up being in a spot where we're looking forward to that game. We're looking forward to a final against the mighty St Mirren from the most beautiful town in the entire world, and then you get an opportunity to really compete for a trophy before the end of the calendar year. But back to the game, I thought the team played very well, very compact, very disciplined, and actually played with a wee bit of swagger at times as well, which they earned the right to do within the game, which is great. They worked hard, they were switched on. Raskin was great. Actually, you know what, everyone played well. I don't think there was one bad player in the whole time. In terms of negatives, I'm not going to say anything negative about that at all, because we were desperate for a victory. We got the victory. I can't even imagine what this podcast would have been like today and the rest of the weekend would have been like if we had gone out of the cup at that point. And it was everything was kind of pointing towards that, truly, wasn't it? And so I'm so glad that we kind of bucked that trend. And I think I mentioned on a previous pod, or maybe it was just a conversation with some pals, but this could be the greatest comeback in footballing history if this guy turns us around. You know, obviously we've got some very, very difficult games coming up here over the next wee while. In fact, have you actually seen our fixtures up to the semi-final? We've got a lot of away games, a lot of tough European games in there as well. So it's going to be a hell of a time between now and the 1st or 2nd of November when the game is played. It hasn't been determined yet exactly when it's going to be. I'm hopeful it's not going to be a 5 a.m. kickoff. You know, with the semi-final, with the cup finals against that mob, we had an 8 o'clock kickoff here, you know, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'd love it if it was that. And then we get a chance to get a wee bit of a party atmosphere, get some beers at half time and such like that. But yeah, no negatives on that one. A 2-0 victory at home eases the pressure on everyone, gives us a chance to collectively breathe and then just look forward to whatever's going to come our way on Thursday and on Sunday. I looked at the Rangers website again for the stats this week. 69% possession, 9 shots on goal, 5 on target. And we scored 2 of them, so just, what was that, just under 50% versus 4 shots and 1 on target for Hibs. On the referee watch, Nick Walsh, I don't really rate him as a referee. I don't like his attitude at all, but I think he did okay. There wasn't really anything there that was really super annoying. Did his job on VAR and you know, admitted what was there, and you know, we could have maybe done with him last week instead of booking our captain for asking to go to VAR because it was such a blatant handball. And then, of course, for Shankland to come out and admit it afterwards, you know, it's just awful. And then, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to go over that again. So, yeah, we've earned the right to be in the semi-final and very, very much looking forward to that. Our next game's Thursday at home to Genk. That's an 8 p.m. UK kickoff time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday the 25th. That is, of course. And, you know, it's normally something we'd be looking forward to. I think I'm certainly looking forward to it a wee bit more for 2 reasons. One, obviously, having that good game and then a good kind of half against Hearts maybe points to something being a wee bit on the upturn. And secondly, our better performances this year, apart from Hibs on Saturday, there was in Europe. So we should be beating Genk at home, and if we get off to, it'd be great to get off to a good start in this Europa League and get ourselves on the way to qualification as early as we possibly can. So something to look forward to. We'll see what that looks like. They've got a bit of an odd one on Sunday, back to the Sunday games here now because of the Europa League. We're away to Livingston, but it's a 3 p.m. UK kickoff time, which is kind of odd, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason I say it's a bit odd, usually away to Livingston, it's on TV and we've got a dung, kickoff time. It's like 5 a.m. my time, 4 a.m. Pacific, or 7 a.m. Eastern, and we don't have that, that opportunity for a lie-in or anything like that. So to have it as a 3 o'clock UK is good. Then it'll be back to league business, and hopefully we'll see. I guess we'll see. I can't even say anything with any sort of confidence right now in terms of predictions or anything like that. In terms of shout-outs for this week, I got this one last night from Fraser Curry, the president of the Bramalea Rangers Supporters Club. You'll remember that Bramalea had their 40th anniversary party this past weekend there, and he said, can you give a shout-out to Jim Fuller from Grand Rapids, Michigan, I should say, who drove through to our anniversary party on Saturday night. Jim is apparently a regular listener to the pod. Thank you very, very much, Jim, for being a regular listener. That's very, very much appreciated. And he decided to attend. So what I did here, folks, was I decided to Google Maps this last night, and that's a 560-kilometre, 5-hour drive to go to a 40th birthday party of a club here. That's incredible dedication, Jim. Good for you for doing that. I hope you got home safely. And Fraser also said, just a note to thanks to the other NARSA clubs who were in attendance as well. He sent me some photographs. It looked absolutely packed. He said that the bartenders were absolutely rushed off their feet. It was a brilliant night. Obviously, I'm assuming they would have loved to have had it in their own premise like they had for all those years, but it looked very much like a proper Rangers night, and they had a great time, and that's brilliant to see. It's such a poignant anniversary. Do you know what it did? It actually got me thinking that this year is Calgary's 25th anniversary, and I hadn't even talked to our committee about that. In fact, actually, if the committee are listening, this is probably the first time that they've heard me say that. And I just never really thought about it, and it's something that we might want to do something in terms of celebration when the time is right at some point this year. 25 years is nothing to sniff at, and it's great that we've still got a lot of the founding members that are still regularly attending the club as well. So yeah, well done to Fraser and his team, and congratulations again to Jim for making that absolutely wild journey to and from the party. I'm assuming he didn't drive home straight after the party. I'm assuming he got somewhere to stay and drove back on the Sunday, or maybe he's making a bit of a holiday of it, not sure. But yeah, very, very much appreciated, Jim, and well done to everybody at Bramalea again. We did have a note on the NARSA WhatsApp group from the Orange County Rangers Supporters Club President, Brian Campbell, good friend of mine, and our convention director, NARSA convention director, of course. And I'm just going to read it out here if you don't mind. Okay, Bears, we might not have a lot of cheerful news surrounding our great club right at the moment, but as we head into the weekend, this is from Friday, our family has a wee bit of a good pick-me-up news to share with you all. Just minutes ago, my nephew Andrew was confirmed to the Great Britain baseball roster for this week's European Championships, which starts tomorrow. You may remember that he was selected for this summer's under-23 team, and they went on to win the tournament. Andrew was awarded pitcher of the tournament and subsequently got the call-up for the full international camp this past week. He and Graham's Brian's brother, have been in Amsterdam, he being Andrew at this point. He and Graham have been in Amsterdam this past week for the camp. And as I said, within the past minutes, the roster was announced and he made it now. Hashtag let's go. Andrew and Team GB. And he did get some pitching time on Saturday. I understand that they had a loss on Saturday. I think they were actually playing yesterday. I should have checked the score, because yesterday they were playing, I think it was Israel. And just purely with my vast knowledge of baseball, it doesn't feel like Israel would have a great baseball team. And I have no idea whether that's true or not. So I'm hoping that they picked up a win yesterday and then they get some points on the board to give them a chance to succeed and move forward to the knockout stages and such. So Brian finished off by saying, have a great tournament and do us all proud. We are the people. So what a brilliant story to get, from Graham had actually put a post on Facebook that I'd seen on the weekend. They are saying that like a year ago, this wasn't even a thing. And then however it came about, this will not surprise you. Brian then decided to do some research and got some information, and it became a thing that he could qualify for the Great British team. And then a year later, he's in the full squad. He's playing against literal major league players, and it's just what an amazing achievement for Andrew and the entire family. And who knows where this goes? I don't think it does any harm for his overall career. And what an experience for the family to have as well. Just absolutely incredible. Just a reminder that Amanda and Jason Jr. Ross are running the London Marathon in April in support of the Royal British Legion. I'll leave the link in there, as I have done for the last few weeks. And it's coming up close now, the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club Culture Weekend, November 21st to 22nd, with the real Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe all going. There's a boat cruise, there's going to be singers, there's going to be a gala dinner, and a whole bunch of fun and hilarity there. In terms of a convention update, I did mention last week that we were going to be discussing the results of the survey at our NARSA executive meeting. That meeting did not take place last week. There was a scheduling conflict in there, so we've put it off to this Wednesday coming. So I'll have information to share. We're going to go through the results that we have. Some of the information was actually the whole spreadsheet was shared, but some of the comments. Remember, I said a couple of weeks ago that I was going to do like an episode dedicated to some of the freeform comments. One of the best ones on from last week there was this the NARSA podcast, something along the lines of, I'm not reading this out now, but something along the lines of, the NARSA podcast should stick to NARSA business. It's not the Gary show. Nobody cares. We've all seen the game. Don't tell us what we've already seen. And just a whole bunch of vitriol like that. I don't know if that person got out of bed on the wrong side that particular morning, or they just don't care for this sort of stuff. But telling the truth is what it's all about. And if you don't like it, you know what you can do. You can just fast forward the stuff you don't like and get to the NARSA business and see how it goes from there. But I appreciate anyone. You know, the worst thing for me would be silence. That would be marked, and that would be kind of damning. But the honesty of people when they're on their keyboard is very refreshing. Let's just say that. So yeah, not too much to share on the NARSA front in terms of what the outputs of that are going to be. I'm hoping, I don't anticipate that we would be making a firm decision on Wednesday night to say this is exactly what we're going to do. I think it's going to be more of a, let's just wait and see how we all feel, you know, have an open dialogue about what our interpretation of the results look like, and then decide and determine what we need to do. But we are very well aware that if we are going ahead with a convention next year, that we are pushing time here, you know, to get something organised and figured out. So, you know, it's not completely unknown to us. We're pushing up on October here. And although we did some monumental things for Kissimmee in Florida within just weeks of the convention, we don't want to do that again. And we certainly will not do that again. So we'll see what that looks like. Clubs interviews are still underway, and we'll find out a wee bit more about that. I know that the team met with, I think it was Vancouver Downtown last week, and had a good conversation with Fraser and such over there. I'll find out a bit more about that, as I say, this week. In terms of the communication section, the Gers Guide, this random thing that the club does every now and again, was out very, very early this morning. So you don't need to get the Gas Guide, you get the Gers Guide. And today there is highlights of the Rangers women's team. The Rangers women's team beat Aberdeen 3-0 yesterday. Goals from Katie Wilkinson, an own goal, and then an injury time goal from Mia McCauley. And that's 4 league wins in a row, and they're still top of the table. And here's the thing. So I mentioned last week that Glasgow City have a game in hand over them, but it's against defending champions Hibs. And the Rangers women's team are also playing Glasgow City this coming weekend as well. So this is getting to, it feels like quite a poignant part of the season already, quite so early in the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. There's also an interview with under 18 player Aidan McCallion on Rangers TV today. Tomorrow's a loan review, which is typically on the Tuesday. And then there's an interview with the Women and Girls Managing Director, Donald Gillies, as well. I'm going to actually check that out tomorrow and see, because that would be quite interesting just to see how they're doing, where they're at, what that looks like in terms of where they thought they were going to be, what's being invested, what they think the future is going to look like. On Wednesday is a press conference for the Genk game, and then a training ground feature. Thursday, of course, is the Genk game at home in the Europa League. Friday I imagine Friday will be the press conference for the Livingston game, or maybe they would make that Saturday. Probably Friday, since we're at home on Thursday. I'm not 100% sure. And then on Sunday, we have Livingston versus Rangers, 3 p.m. UK, and then it's Rangers versus Glasgow City, and that's going to be at Ibrox this week, and it's a 4:10 p.m. kickoff. So unfortunately, it clashes with the men's team game, which is so avoidable. I don't understand that, but big weekend for both of the teams there. So that's good to see. And in terms of other communication, just at the 5 Stars evening with Barry Ferguson, Alan McGregor, Neil McCann and Billy Dodds, Saturday, January the 3rd, Doubletree by Hilton Glasgow Central. Tickets £80 or £120 if you go for regular or VIP. And yeah, that will kind of do it. I just did want to finish off here, or almost finish off here, by wishing the European team all the very, very best in this weekend's Ryder Cup. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a relatively free schedule so that I can sit and enjoy it as much as possible. I imagine the American fans are going to go berserk like they typically do, and we'll see some stupidity like we typically do, and then we'll see whether Europe can actually do a repeat of what they did a couple of years back there. It's going to be exciting to see that the golf is. There's a lot of personalities on both sides now, and a lot of really, really, really good golfers on both sides now. So if you're a golf fan, I hope you get a chance to enjoy that as well. I was actually thinking earlier today whether I should actually be supporting America, since I live in North America, but I purposely chose Canada for a reason, and there's no real Canadian affiliation with the Ryder Cup other than just interested parties watching it. So even although I'm based in North America and have been for 21 years, I'm still voting for Europe, of course. So I'm not voting for Europe, I'm still rooting for Europe. So that's a thing as well. All right. That will do it for this week, my friends. As always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen. And please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it over the next wee while as the team, the NARSA executive team, here, beds in. We're going to try maybe a couple of different things with the podcast over time to try and get more subscribers, to try and get a wee bit more reach in there, and try and see if in some way we can get a sponsorship or something like that going on, and then we'll figure out exactly what that means over time. It won't take away from the regularity of the pod or the content that's being delivered or anything like that, but it would be good if we could monetize it in some way so that we can give back to our membership and the community at large. So stay tuned for that. It's not going to be a cash grab or anything like that, but if you have a business or you know someone that has a business that would be interested in hearing the words hello and welcome to the NARSA Weekly Update, brought to you by our partners at, where you can get all your needs, like all that sort of thing, then please do get in touch. rangersscc@hotmail.com, and next week I'll give you Stephen's details and you can get in touch with him as well. He'll be doing some reach outs over the next wee while. Stephen is, of course, our sponsorship and marketing director. Big week for us this week, folks, and I really, really hope it goes our way. It will be interesting to see whether the Hibs game was the standards that we have now set, that's the benchmark for us going forward, or whether it was a fluke. Thus far, in terms of results, obviously it's the anomaly to the actual results and performances we've been having, but hopefully, as I said, you need to start somewhere, so we'll see what that looks like. Until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Follow.